What's up, guys? Matty here, mixandmastermysong.com. Today I'm going to show you 3 different kick and bass techniques that I use a lot on different mixes. I really just wanted to show you this one phase thing, but I know that was kind of boring, so I added a few more things to maybe spice it up a little more. Let's get into it. So I was mixing this song the other day, and first thing that hit me was like I got 3 kicks, but they're not hitting very hard at all. And what I'll do is I'll play you before. It turns out they were all out of phase, but let me play it before and then I'll play it after, and then you can see why I think knowing how to use phase with kicks and things that you're stacking is so important, because you might only need 1 kick, and if you stack a bunch of kicks, you're like, why is it not hitting any harder? 9 times out of 10, it's probably out of phase. So it's really important. It's one of the biggest mix techniques you can use is understanding phase and how to fix it. So let me play you this. This is just the bass and the kick. This song's not out yet, so I just didn't want to give it away. So it's just bass and kick, and you'll hear the kicks, and then I'll bring in, which is the UAD Little Labs plugin, real simple plugin, and I'll show you how to use it. And you'll hear just the kicks come thundering through the speakers. Now you can hear a big difference between those two. The low end comes much thicker, it's punching much more. And with phase, there's no right or wrong way. I usually just take the phase adjust and adjust it still it starts sounding good. And you can even zoom in with phase stuff and see if some of these get out of phase. So these are fine, but then they start getting off. And so that's what's happening. So towards the end of this kick, they're completely out of phase. You can see this one's up and this one's down. So that means it's out of phase. So just clicking the phase button doesn't necessarily always work. Adjusting the phase a bit can help it, move so that it locks in a different way, and it makes them, with it in phase most of the time. So what I did is I just started turning the knob, and I'll show you. Let's start this at 0. So default's at 0. And I just started twisting it until it started sounding good. So let's check this out. Let's mute the bass for now. And you can hear it sounds different. Now, one thing I do when I'm doing this kind of stuff, because it's sometimes a little bit harder to hear the changes if it's just moving along, is I'll loop a real tight loop like this, right? And then start twisting it. So now you can really hear the difference. You could definitely hear the change of that a lot more when I was doing it there than when you're just playing the kick and it's hitting and then there's a break and then there's a hit. So phase is huge. You can do this with snares. You can do this with kicks. Sometimes the 808 and the kick will get out of phase. So checking that stuff with your low end is huge and can be the only thing you really have to do to make that song punch through. I mean, you can tell on this mix, this song's a finished mix, but I just loaded these 3 files here. This is all I did on the kick. It was the Little Labs and then some EQ, a little boost on the low end. And once the mix got going, I can tell this is something I did later on. These 2 kicks were a little bright and cutting through too much, so I just shelved them a bit and just brought down some mid-range. And this one, nothing. So that's a huge thing you can do in order for your kicks to punch and your bass to punch and your 808s to punch. That's really all I wanted to tell you, but I wanted to throw a few more things in that I do. So here's another. So what I did is I routed this kick to here. And sometimes this mix was really busy. So with the bass and the kick going, there's a lot of low end information, and also has some synths that were producing quite a bit of low end. So what I've been doing lately is if you get Pro Q, right? And you put Pro Q there and you put Pro Q on your kick. So we're going back to the 808 or the bass file. Then you can put the analyzer in for the kick, right? You could go here and click and select the kick analyzer. So now this is going to tell you where the frequency buildup is between the two. So check it out. You can see it's right around here and right around there. Now, funny enough, that's a good indication of where to start, but sometimes I'll move it up a bit just by listening. So it's cool to be able to see where it's building up, but also use your ears more importantly and do that. So then I put that, I side chain it so you can see the kicks sending a side chain to the EQ. And then by clicking this button on the Pro Q3, it will only listen to the side chain. So only when the kick is hitting, it's going to duck this down. We're using it obviously as dynamic mode, okay? So follow me. So by doing this, what we're doing is we're only ducking the 808 or the low end in the frequency that it's having buildups with a kick, as opposed to just generally ducking it, which a lot of people do. I find this is a better way to keep more of like the top end of the 808. And even this kick, there's not a whole lot of like 30 hertz in this kick. So the more of that I can have just makes for a warmer, bigger mix. So another thing I do, I also use this other plugin for this sometimes. It's called Laser. And you guys can check this one out. This will do kind of the same thing, and you can adjust it this way. But I've also been using this more for some reason or another lately, and it seems to work. And now thirdly, so I sent all my kicks to buses and 808. Use the chicken head, which is a new addition with the Mic DSP thing, which I'll do another video on. Chicken head compressor, just tapping it a bit, little NLS, a little VMR, a little Neve. All this is just to add some saturation and warmth and thickness and body that I find by adding some different saturation boxes. Black box, shout out to Jason Joshua for this one. Adding a bunch of different little saturation can build up and make your drums just hit harder. Now, the thing I want to show you guys is this spiff here, okay? This thing's dope, and this, I think I stole this idea or concept from Josh Goodwin on his Instagram. And I think he used a Tom or something, but you can get a little more punch using this. Now, let me play it for you with and without it so you can hear what it's doing, and then I'll show you how I use it. So you can hear it's cutting through a bit more. And the reason I do this is sometimes when you're using a good amount of saturation, you're going to lose transients, okay? So by adding the spiff, this is what spiff does. It adds transients back. I can put it on delta mode, and I'll show you one more trick. You can put it on delta mode and hear what it's doing. Notice my mix is only 11%. We'll come back to that. I'm going to turn it on 100 so you can hear what it's doing though. So now that's adding a lot, right? So I dial this way down, and you could, you noticed it when I bypassed it, but it's light, and I want it that way. I don't want this crazy transient coming through. I just want to add a little bit more back. So let me bypass it on and off, and I'll turn the mix up so you guys can hear what's going on. So usually I set this around 11% or 20%. One more quick tip with spiff. Sometimes I do use it in delta mode. If I have a kick that's not cutting through enough on a mix, and I have this, I think this is on my parallel actually. I can show you here too. I have spiff here, but spiff here is in delta mode. And what that does, as you guys heard it, when I turn the mix all the way up, is just the transient. So I use just the transient, and then I'll blend that in with the original kick sound, and that helps give me some more punch when I need it. So those are 3 different tips that I hope will help you guys with the bass and drum, bass and kick, combination stuff. I can't emphasize enough how important phase is. It's such a boring plugin. It's such a boring topic, but it makes a huge, huge difference a lot of the times. I mean, this song like completely changed when we changed the phase of that kick. Like it brought it to a whole other level. And as you can see, I barely had to do anything else to that for this mix. So always check your phase on kicks, snares, basses, stuff like that. Even sometimes transient plucks and stuff can affect phase as well. So it's something just to keep in mind when you're mixing it. It's something to maybe check first before you start throwing on EQs and compressors and saturators and all this other stuff. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you use any other phase plugins that help you out. If you need your songs mixed or mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also check out my courses and presets there too. Talk to you soon.